ASDF. These are the 8 different elements that you can conjure and combine into wild and crazy spells. The Magicka was interesting because it didn't have any mana bars, it didn't have any cooldowns. You just had this click around and create stuff on the fly, which was hilarious. It's hilarious, I should say. And one of the things that the community of Magicka wanted, and we patched in there, was the PvP. I mean, most of the co-op in the original Magicka was PvP as well, by pure accident. But a couple of guys created a mod, and we brought it up and fixed it into the actual game, and it was quite popular, but unbalanced. I mean, the whole concept of, let's see, you could combine 5 times 8 elements. It leads you something like 4,000 different spell combinations. It's not possible to balance, right? So for this focused spellcasting action PvP title, there we decided to focus down the amount of elements and combinations to something that's more balanceable and manageable. As one of the other community members stated, we lowered the skill floor to make it easier for new people to come in, but we also raised the skill ceiling, because in the original Magicka you had, I don't know, 40, 50 of the spells in there were awesome, and you used those over and over. The rest of the 4,000 things were mostly fillers, or things that killed yourself. So what we've done now is that we've lowered the skill level, the skill floor for new people to get in, and raised the skill ceiling by making all the available combinations actually viable choices. Or at least that's the plan. You'll be able to try it out soon enough. What else do we have? Early access. Yes, I mentioned the community a couple of times already. It is quite important to us it's very important to us to be close together with the community. So we are in early access, which is, we're very lucky to be able to go there. I mean, Magicka has always had a strong community, and we really want to develop this game together with the community. I mean, we have a roadmap of what we want to do with the game. We'll have weekly updates. I mean, everything from a brand new feature or down to a couple of bug fixes or adding new content. And the roadmap is fairly defined in the short term, what we want to do the upcoming weeks. But in the longer run, we want to do this together with the community. So if they request pandas, okay, so we create pandas, if it makes sense in the context of the game. I think, yes, we have a video of the first thing that we'll release, the first update. It is weapon abilities. Now, the original Magicka had, you had a staff and a sword, right? And the sword was pretty meh, not very fun. So what we did is we added, first of all, a sort of combo system. So if you just right-click the mouse button, you will do weapon combos. And if you hold it down later, not now, but as soon as we get it completed and deployed live, just hold down the right mouse button and you'll see these special attacks. So here's, let's see what we get here. Yes, here's a throwing knife, a throwing dagger. So you can just hold it down, you see a little sparkle, and if you're skilled enough, you can just kill the wooden sheep. Yeah. And here is, I believe this is a bearded axe. Yeah. So you have that sort of weapon special abilities that you can equip a weapon before the round, go into the game and just have an extra thing into your arsenal. I think that's about most of the things I'd like to say about the game. So if you have any questions, please just fire away and I'll be happy to answer them. And then just go into the game and play.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. Welcome to the stream. For the next hour or so, we will be open up for questions during the gameplay session. So if you're playing and anything pops up in your mind, please feel free to ask in the actual chat, and that's why we're actually here. This is one of the first times we're actually doing this. It's also new for us. We know that it's probably also new for you guys. So we're kind of experimenting with this, but just drop your question into the actual chat, and we will try to cover it as much as you can. First of all, how long are we going to keep these US servers up for our for the people that are currently in the gameplay?
Yeah, we're going to keep them up for. On this, you're in a sort of special little press branch, right? Just for you. And we'll keep those servers up as long as needed. For early access, yes, we'll have deployed data centers in Europe, US East Coast, and US West Coast. You're playing against the US West Coast at the moment. So if you're on the East Coast, you might see some lag, but hey, it's better than playing against Europe. We have a pre-alpha that's live. And the servers there are only on in Europe. But I mean, there's some guys playing from the States there, and it's okay, laggy, but it works.
Also, on a side note, this actual presentation will be available for download post release. I'm currently in the middle of actually editing out some stuff, so we'll be in contact with you as soon as possible to link you to the place where you can get the video for this presentation, as well as all the questions that are being answered. Let's see here. There we go. One of the people in the chat was actually mentioning earlier on that he was having problems using the middle mouse button.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I mean, we have tried to simplify the control scheme. I mean, one of the good things about Magicka is the beautiful complexity of it, right? And one of the bad things is that it is complicated. Now, at Paradox, as a studio, we like complex things, but we don't like complicated things. That's what we're trying to do, both us, a new studio called Paradox North, and Paradox Development Studios, the great studio behind Crusader Kings, etc. So, Magicka, the original, used, let's see now, it was shift as a toggle, and you could cast things in very many ways. So now we've actually made it possible to play everything in the game with a 2-button mouse. So if you want to cast a spell on yourself, you can actually click the little icons down there, and then right-click to cast it. On the ground, if you want to cast a spell on the ground, or on yourself. Just put the mouse over yourself and you'll see a little white outline. And that's also something that will help, we think will help more people get in and know the franchise. Because it's hilarious. The complexity is not, we would never want to take that away, but we want to make it less complicated.
All right, perfect. What makes Wizard Wars such a good fit to the Steam Early Access system? And will players have to pay for Early Access, or is Wizard Wars aiming for free-to-play, let everyone in Early Access?
Yeah, so you can just sign up right now at wizardwars.com for free, and you'll be up in a queue, right? Because obviously it takes, it costs money to run servers, running dedicated servers. We want a very good online experience. At the moment, you're probably not seeing a fantastic online experience because it is pre-alpha. It's very, very early. But the whole thing with early access is that we want to get it out in like a non-bloated state, right? We want to find this foundation core game mechanic thing. That's why we're launching with like one game mode and one map, because the core gameplay will not be more fun with multiple levels or multiple game modes. And we want to get this foundation of the core gameplay good and awesome first. And the best way to do that is to get people in as soon as possible, like we're doing right now. And we have implemented like a feedback button in the game. You probably see it in there. If you click it, fill out a little survey, and we can see, we in the dev team, we look at that basically every day. Okay, these many people are having lag issues. Here are some new bugs. This is general feedback that we can use to help us prioritize what to do next. I got the question earlier as well, like, so if Steam Early Access wasn't available, what would you have done? We would have wanted to do the same thing, working very close with the community and trying to get it out to as many people as possible, as early as possible.
Perfect. Currently, the game seems to be set up for competition play. Do you, as a team, at the moment have any esports aspirations?
Aspirations, absolutely. I mean, we'd love it if it went there, but it's not like we're going to say, hey, we're an esports game. That has to come from the players who play it. If it's requested, we'll absolutely do it. I mean, we have great plans for a very strong matchmaking system. We will want to have things like tournament support, spectator mode. None of it is done yet, but we have taken the first steps towards it. And if it's appreciated, we'll absolutely go there.
Perfect. Will there be any non-iconic wizard hoods, custom characters to choose from, different costumes, different skins, anything along those lines?
Yes, we'll be adding loads and loads of new content as we go along. So initially we'll have like a rather small amount of content. I can tell you a bit about how the items are supposed to work. All the items in the game will have one benefit and one drawback. So it's a complete pro-con system. We do not want the items to be something that you have better gear than another player and therefore you win. It's very important to us that it's pure skill in actually creating all these spells on the fly. That's where the skill is, not in the item setup. Right? So the more spectacular items look, I mean, you see on the screens, etc. We have a couple of interesting, funny things. And we'll try to add. I mean, if you have a flaming staff, yeah, you'll be better at spraying fire, but you will also have a drawback, which would be, in this case, you'll be weak against death, right? So you'll do less death damage. Your death mines will affect a smaller area, etc.
Fair enough. In addition to that, in extension, actually, looking at player progression.
Yeah.
What is the goal of actually getting users to come back using player progression, but also balancing it out when it comes to the matchmaking?
Yeah. So the matchmaking it will be based on sort of an elo system, your actual skill. The items, they will let you specialize in different things. So if you like setting people on fire, yeah, you can specialize into setting people into like fire spec. But you'll have such a big flaw or weakness against death, as I said before, that you will still be, all the items will be balanced against each other. Level-wise, you'll probably start with like the default, the vanilla, the iconic robes of the original. And then you'll sort of add small flavor of statistics to them. And then you'll go up to the slightly more insane things as you progress. But I can tell you that right away, we will not be a pay-to-win game. That is something that the whole studio is very much against. The winning should be in the actual skill of playing the game.
Perfect. Unlike most MOBAs, Wizard Wars give players the same set of skills. How do you balance such an open system against more traditional roles that you would see in a tri-lane game?
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all that people are getting everybody into the game and trying to play the same role?
Actually, that's the beauty of getting it out to actual players who play this. We have done a very interesting test. We invited a local clan, right? And they immediately just assigned different roles. So I'll be the healer, I'll be sort of the tank blocker thing, and I'll be ranged DPS, and I'll be crowd control. Okay, so they set themselves up to do that, and then they just remorphed. When someone came from behind and attacked the healer, he just became the tank, and the tank became the healer. And, so you just adapt these roles on the fly. So it is very cooperative in that way.
Okay. And a question regarding the matchmaking. different tiers of play? Are we going to see a giant pool of the player base at first?
I mean, we will go early access and we will start this thing slightly slow. We'll try to keep down the number of players so we don't get completely overwhelmed. We are pre-alpha. It's very early. But originally, the first thing we'll do is that we'll just take 8 people. Okay, let's go. Next match, 8 people, let's go. As soon as we start getting enough volume in there, we'll start using the ELO ratings, who has won and who has lost. And we'll absolutely separate out the beginners from the experienced players. Just like you probably played through the training ground, right? So we want the first-time players to play against other beginners. Because that's going to be very interesting to see like 8 complete noobs running around trying to play a match. And as we see now, we're looking at some of the players in the pre-alpha. Some of these guys are completely insane. I don't understand how they, just in like 3 or 4 days, they completely destroy me. And I've been playing this game, daily for, I don't know, 9 months. Super fast, very, very skilled, and I don't want them ever to meet someone like a beginner. So yes, we will have a matchmaking system that will put people on playing against others of a similar skill level.
Perfect. For everybody that is currently in the chat, if you're having any issues with connecting to your servers, David, what is Codename Llama?
Codename Llama, yeah. Codename Llama. It is the best error message ever. No, that means that there's a problem with Steam. So what you need to do is you need to quit the game and you need to restart the Steam client, because we use Steam to do the connection between peers. And if something breaks with Steam, the only way we can deal with it right now is to just restart the Steam client, and you should be good to go again.
Perfect. And again, of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And there we go. The mobile market is extremely saturated right now.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to give you what do you think your game has a leg up against the opposition, more specifically garnering attention from the masses?
Yeah. No, I mean, we don't see ourselves as a MOBA. Or, it's such a tricky term. I mean, it was coined by Riot. I mean, when you say MOBA, you think of lane-pushing games like Dota and League of Legends, right? Where you have pre-lanes, you have rounds that can go up to 30 or 45 minutes, you have a deep in-round progression, you have little creeps that attack towers, right? We don't have any of that. We have no in-round progression. The only thing that progresses in the game is your own little magic meter. If you do things like taking over respawn points, kill enemies, etc., you gain magic power, and you can use that to fire off these big magic spells. Our creeps, we don't have creeps, we have familiars. They're much more like pets, right? They follow you around, they help you out, instead of being like automated drones that run up to die against a tower. And primarily, it's the that you have the entire skill set, several hundred spells, at your disposal at any given time. You just create them on the fly. No cooldown, no mana bars, nothing like that. So there will never be a case where you have, I am ranged DPS and I will always defeat this other class. It's down to using the correct key combination in the moment, on the fly. Mm-hmm. And that is fairly unique, I'd say.
For some of those that are currently out there and are having issues of finding servers, their keys they have received allow them to access the alpha itself as well.
Yes, absolutely. The keys you have there, if you just go into the Steam properties beta branch, select none, and you should end up on like the public servers, pre-alpha servers. At the moment, those servers are only in Europe, so you'll have a bit of a lag, but we're bringing up US West Coast, East Coast servers as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Right, perfect. Some of the griefing in the original Magicka was accidental, but here it's encouraged to use spells on enemies and teammates. Now, have you taken any steps to corral jerks or punish those who come into matches and ruin the fun for everybody else?
Yeah. We have... This is slightly technical, but I'll try to keep it... this is what we want to do. I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase of web of trust. Basically, I'm here and I have a friend who's over here, and my friend likes something else. Thus, I will also be positively attached to this guy. So what we'll do in the long run, I mean, right now we're not seeing any of this. I know we have a very strong community that likes the game, and they are friendly to each other. So the friendly fire we have at the moment is just friendly. There aren't any griefers at the moment. But I mean, I'm sure we'll see it soon. What we want to do is that we want to give the player, as you've played a match, the opportunity to like thumbs up or thumbs down someone. So that means that if you give someone a thumbs up, yeah, you'd want to play with him again. If you give him a thumbs down, no, I'd like to not play with this person again. And that also propagates through your friends. So what we want to go for is sort of a softer system. Instead of saying, oh, you team killed 3 people in a round, you must be a bad person. Instead of that, it might be hilarious. It might have saved a match, right? Instead of that, we give this sort of softer thumbs up, thumbs down to the players. And that also means that players who like the same people will play together. It might be that there is a big bunch of people that actually like killing each other. Fine, let them play together. There might be people who only like to play a very, friendly, healing each other way. So we'll have these sort of groups in the game that'll play together with a similar playstyle. That's the plan.
Perfect. Some of the people in the chat are referring to Miley Cyrus at the moment, so I don't think
Miley?
Yeah.
What? Me?
No, I don't think that really has any context on this one. Some of the people are also having some issues regarding getting to the actual beta tab. It's not in the drop down because you'll need to put the password in the actual box first, then verify the password, and then it will show up in the drop down.
Yes. Also, be aware you need to click the check code or something. It says a little button there. If you just hit enter, the window will disappear. I noticed that myself, actually. It's confusing.
Perfect.
But try again. It's there.
Okay. Again, welcome to this stream. We're currently going to be going on for another 45 minutes here. So if you're in the gameplay session right now, please feel free to ask any questions at any time. As mentioned before, we'll be having this recording available to you in the next 2 days, I believe. I'm currently looking at here from a recording perspective. Mm-hmm. So it will all be available for you to use. I see the problem has been solved. So
it works.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Perfect.
Glad to hear it.
There were a lot of meme references and topical internet humor in the original Magicka. Will there be any humor to that effect in Wizard Wars?
Yeah.
He's kind of worried that Chuck Norris will show up and I'll automatically lose.
Yes. So yes, absolutely. I mean, Magicka was hilarious in what it did. It caught all these memes and pop culture references, and that's absolutely something we want to do. Now, we can't be as blatantly obvious anymore. It's tricky to go like too obvious Star Wars references. No, it's not gonna work now. Magicka is too big of a franchise, actually. I mean, there's so many. Magicka in itself sold several million copies, and we did the tablet version, which also saw a very large amount of players. Not that many purchasing customers, perhaps. So that's also one of the reasons we decided to go free to play, because we realized, looking at the tablet numbers, that lots of people like the principle of Magicka, free, being able to combine spells on the fly, but not all of them were willing to pay for that experience up front. So that's also another reason to go for like a free-to-play thing. And also, I mean, we want to do this as a service. We will have weekly updates. Every week we'll have something new out. Might be a little bug fix, might be a new robe or a new staff or new items, or it might be a massive new feature. That all depends.
Perfect. No Chuck Norris though?
No.
Okay.
Or maybe, now that you mention it. No, just press the feedback button, right? Just press it, just say that you want some feedback, send it in, and we'll see what we can do about it.
Mm-hmm. What types of things will we be able to buy in the actual game? If you want to support the actual game, is it just limited to costumes or items? I assume something along the lines of like boosters, like experience boosters.
Yeah, I mean, we're still so early, so we haven't nailed all of this down to details. But obviously, I would personally be willing to charge for spectacular and cool robes that change how you look. And what we want to do is that we want to attach stats to them, so that what you see is what you get. I think it's important to, if you see a guy that's running around with a flaming staff, you know that he is good with fire and not with something else. And that's why we're quite proud of how we've done this pro-con item balance thing. That it doesn't matter if you have like good stats. You can buy yourself the good stats because you also buy yourself a major weakness. And we're thinking that so far it looks reasonably balanced. And thanks to the community that we have, I keep going back to that feedback button in game, that we're seeing like over 1,000 feedback messages for 4 days. And that's really, really good. We've already found like 3 or 4 of the major exploitable, overpowered spells in the game. And we're also seeing these things are boring, so we need to increase them.
Can you give an example of something that was overpowered and now nerfed?
No, but I can give you an example of something that is actually currently overpowered. Right, so if you combine lightning and shield and life, that like puts out lightning pillars that do damage and heal. And if you then on yourself cast lightning resistance, lightning shield on yourself, and you go into these lightning pillars of life, you'll be healed to an insane amount. And it's hilarious fun. It's like using the whole complexity of the system. I don't know if I want to nerf that one though. It's beautiful. You can just use water to push someone out of it. There's also one more thing where you have Ice Death cast on yourself. It does spikes that shoots up and does death damage. That's slightly overpowered. It's quite spammable, and you can stun lock people, and we do not want to have any form of capability where you can stun people forever. So those two are the main prime candidates that we learned just the last days, and that we're going to look at patching, fixing, either tomorrow or definitely by next Tuesday, where we go for the early access.
All right, perfect. At the moment, it seems that a couple of people are having issues trying to connect towards the actual server on site. So it looks like we're moving over towards the alpha servers in Europe. Once again, you will probably have some lag issues or latency issues depending on where you are in North America. Obviously, on the East Coast, you're going to have less issues than on the West Coast.
All right, I could mention this. If there are many people of you that are able to play, it is because we need to have 4x4, and then you get a server and you go. So if you're a number that isn't evenly divided by 8, a couple of you will have to wait a while. If it takes some time, just hang in there. It should put you on top of the queue to get in the next match. If you're going to go over and play on the European servers, please do. Prepare to be owned though, because the guys playing on the pre-alpha servers, they're pretty skilled.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you're having network issues again, the code llama is in effect in that case. So please reboot your Steams as well.
Yes.
This is something that is currently being worked on.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
Again, the game is an alpha.
A pre-alpha.
Right.
And it's also, we really want, that's one of the biggest problems with the original Magicka. fun game had network issues. We want the network and connectivity to be, really good. I mean, especially if you're going to have a PvP game, it needs to be really tight. You don't want to fight connection issues. You want to fight the enemy.
All right. As we're waiting for more QA coming in, and David, you can sit there. You're nice and awkwardly. Yes, no problem.
I could talk about lots of things. I could talk about the familiars.
Let's go and talk about
the familiars. When you die, originally we'd actually put in little familiars. You probably saw them on the login screen. There's a little dude, grey dude with large eyes that slaps himself on the head. We originally put him in, or it in, as a reward for dying. Okay, so you died, get back in the fight, here's some assistance. And the original one wasn't very fun, but gradually the team just sort of developed it into this sort of more cuter character that follows you around, makes funny noises, and gives you this powerful feeling, because you can splat them quite easily, right? They don't have any hit points, and they don't do that much damage. And in the longer run, that's something we would love to see as a customization option as well. So what sort of familiar would you like to bring into the game? You could have things like, trolls, pandas. I mean, the first time we actually showed the game in-house here for our great sister studio, the development studios, the first question we got was, when can I buy a panda? Okay, so we're probably going to do that sometime further down the line if there's interest from the general players. But they have this sort of role where you can use them as scouts. They will, as soon as an enemy goes into range, they will scurry off and try to attack them. So you can sort of see where enemies are before you can see them on the minimap or visually. And you can use them as a sort of meat shield. And you can actually heal them as well. We have an in-game, it's not an achievement, but if you heal a lot of people, we want to give you a reward for just healing, being a good guy. So you can heal the little familiars as well. And that'll also give you score at the end of the round. So you'll get score even if you don't kill anyone, or even if you manage to get no assists. You can run around, heal people, you can run around and capture these spawn points. So you can play more like a support character. Not a character, but more like a support persona. It's like me, I'm too old for the super fast micro. I'm okay, but I mean, against the pre-alpha dudes, I don't have a chance. So I need to hang back a bit, heal, and be generally supportive.
All right, perfect. The game seems to be better suited for mouse and keyboard operation. Will you, however, support controllers?
We don't do it at this time because it's a bit of a tricky. But actually, we have a control scheme that we're experimenting with, and I think it'll work. I can't promise anything, but it's absolutely something I personally would love to see. And if it's requested from the community, yes, we'll certainly do it. I think it would control quite well as like a twin stick. So you have movement on one and the direction of another. And
there's a controller right there.
Looking at just a moment. Hang on. So the control scheme, I'm not saying that this is what we will go live with, but I can show you how it works. So movement here, the direction here. Because I mean, one of the differences between Magicka and this is that you can cast spells while moving, right? So it's much more fluent and mobile than the original, where you were more like a cannon tower, right? So what we'll try to do is that we'll have these buttons as charging up spells, using left trigger as a toggle. So we'll put the sort of attack spells, attack elements here. Fire, death, earth, lightning, and then you hold down left trigger and you have water, water, cold, shield, etc. And then you fire them off with the right trigger. So charge, fire, charge, fire. I think that should work. We've tried it and it actually feels quite nice. You lose a bit of speed in actual spellcasting, but you gain precision in movement. And positioning is quite interesting. It's quite important in this little game of ours.
All right, perfect. I hope that answers your question. As once again, we're waiting for the next one to come up. Some people we're currently starting to rotate to the European pre-alpha servers.
Just let us know if you have any issues logging into the pre-alpha service. So if you still have problems, just let us know and we'll try to get some tech support in if there's continuous issues.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, this is one of the first times they're actually doing a setup like this.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. And it's also, this is the first time we bring up the US servers, so I hope they are holding. Otherwise, we'll have some more days to, we'll have some work to do to fix it for Tuesday. Okay. And we will. So, I can talk a bit perhaps about, say, the game mode itself.
Feel free.
Yeah, sure. So, the game mode was originally inspired by... Well, originally inspired was by Counter-Strike and / Battlefield. Several of the people on the team come from DICE and from the bigger FPS shooter studios here in Sweden. Grew tired of this humongous 200-person team doing a massive title. I wanted to do something smaller, faster, more agile, and more in sync with the community. That's how we created Paradox North. So the game mode is, I mean, you probably already play it and understand it. Simple respawn points, you take them over, then your team respawn there and you prevent the enemy from respawning there. It's similar to Conquest in Battlefield. And we experimented with lots of interesting other things first, like having a tug of war and having lots of other complex, more complicated things. But stripping away all that and landing at this rather pure mechanism that we have now works really well for a first game mode, because it supports the different play styles of people well, and it really supports the whole create your spells on the fly to counter any situation you're in. I can also mention some inspirations for the actual gameplay, and it's Street Fighter. That's been one of our major inspirations. And that the original Magicka had sort of a rock, paper, scissors system. There was always at least one defense to any offense that someone threw at you. So we've taken that and sort of solidified it a bit, removed a couple of the corner cases and the really crazy stuff, and we have shields. That's just the E button and right click. They will deflect beams and they will block sprays. Those are the long range damage over time spells. And then we have barriers. That's E for shield and D for earth. So shield earth becomes a barrier, and that blocks projectiles. And but the barriers are very vulnerable to beams, so you can. It is a very, everything has a strength and a weakness, and it's like that all over the game. So if you're skilled enough, you will be able to have. If you see two skilled players playing defensively, they can go for a very, very long time, just playing, attacking, trying to find holes in the other person's defense, and it becomes like these, like the really good Street Fighter duels where people are, blocking, dancing, dodging, predicting in a sort of mind game way what the other person is about to do. And then you unleash this super special combo thing and actually break through, and it becomes very, very accelerating to see.
Perfect. As we're waiting for more questions, apparently the players in the European servers are really good, as you mentioned before.
Yes. They are really, really, really good. Also, if you're in the US, you're probably lagging a bit, but I hope it's still playable.
What do you personally define as a acceptable ping?
Oh, that's very difficult to say. We have a bit of a semi-fancy network solution where you actually talk to. It's sort of a peer-to-peer thing as well as the dedicated server. So even if the game lags and the ping to the server is bad, you should still have a decent experience with how people move. Unless they have a bad connection, that's nothing we can do anything about. But for the speed of the game, I'd say something, if you go above 115 ping, it will be a definite drawback. You will have problems putting up these barriers and shields fast enough to block things. So then you'll have to trust like the damage mitigation layer that we have. If you, as an example, cast a shield, earth, armor on yourself, that will reduce incoming damage from projectiles with 50%. You can even make yourself fully immune to one damage type. If you're playing against the European on the European server, I know that there are a couple of really, really hardcore fans. They adapt so quickly that you can just spray them with a death beam or whatever, and they will switch on the full damage mitigation spell, and before you can even they'll riposte before you can even figure out that they've turned themselves invulnerable to your current attack. I'm so fascinated by how quickly these players are learning, and that the system is working. That's also, I mean, it was a bit of a thought experiment. How can we get this how can we take Magicka, this complex, complicated, quite unbalanced and hilarious mess, and tune it into a PvP experience that's, it can't be as insane. It can't have these huge damage spikes or useless things. We want everything to work. And it does. It's like, yes. And thanks to the community, we can also now find all the edge cases and try to keep everything in sync. And fun. I mean, it doesn't matter if everything is perfectly balanced if it's boring. You might need to have a couple of outliers and things that are slightly overpowered just to keep it, if it's fun and it doesn't feel overpowered, yeah, I'd say we keep it. The fun is the most important thing we have.
All right, well, this session will continue on for another 25 minutes. I know that a whole bunch of you are still having some networking issues, or even though there are somebody actually managed to have a decent experience coming from the American Midwest and running on DSL, so to the European servers. So
that is fairly impressive, I'd say. Wow, cool.
Okay. As mentioned before, please, if you have any questions during the gameplay session, drop them into the chat and we will walk you by as we go. In the meantime, we'll be here for you.
We will be here.
Is there anything else you want to add on top of this? Because at the moment we don't have any questions dropped in the chat at the moment.
No, so I mean, I can talk a bit about the early access and how we would like to work with the community. At the moment, what we have is Paradox traditionally has a very strong community, and we have a forum system where people voice their opinion. And Paradox does like smart games for smart people. So the quality level of discussion on these forums is high. It's smart people that can eloquently phrase their opinions. It's like, yeah, they speak well. Right? So what we've tried is, even though we have a slightly different target audience with Magicka Wizard Wars than we have with, say, Crusader Kings 2 or Europa Universalis 4, we still feel that the discussions in these forums is really high quality. So what we've done is that we've created, I mentioned the feedback earlier, we also have a sort of directed discussion area in these forums where we threw out questions like, at the moment I think there's a discussion on ice armor. uh, it's not spectacular enough as it is. It's quite boring. Nobody uses it. It looks ugly and it has boring gameplay effects. So how can we make it fun? How can we make it fantastic? We have some ideas in the dev team, of course, but we really believe in this sort of cloud of ideas thing. So we have a couple of solutions. Throw it out to the players. What would you like to see? How do you have any good ideas? Then you put all the ideas in a big pile and you just cherry pick. Some of the stuff will come from the devs, some of it will come from the community. There's been several suggestions already from the community, both from the feedback in game, on the forums, or people finding dev team members on Skype or Twitter or whatever, and just sending thoughts and feedback. And that's so valuable. Engaging people this much that they actually put effort into reaching out to us. And that's also something that we really want to feed back and have a dialogue instead of having like a monologue where me as game designer, I know what you will like. You will like this. No, I don't know that.
Anything like guessing. This in a stream environment, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
Anything like the environment we're in right now?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, perfect. We currently don't have any additional questions we dropped into the chat.
Mm-hmm.
We still have about 20 minutes before we're going to go and wrap this up. Let's see here. Nothing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean I can talk a bit about these special attacks that you see on the number 1, 2, 3, 4 on the keyboard. We call them magics, right? The original game had them as special element combinations, and then you pressed space, I believe, to create raise dead or revive people or call down a meteor storm or a volcanic eruption or whatever. We decided to remove that feature because it was not viable in a PvP setting to have 8 people able to spam meteor showers. It's just not possible. And the meta, that's actually very inspired as well by Street Fighter. It works just like a super meter in fighting games. It grows slightly over time. So if you just hang around, you will sooner or later gain access to these powers. And it's a trade-off. If you want to use the tier 1 magic, I think it's haste that you have at the moment that makes you run fast. Yeah, then you spend that magic that you have gathered. If you wait a while longer, you'll have access to the revive or the death, etc. If you kill people, capture points, play well, heal others, yeah, you'll be able to get to the top end, the tier 4. That's what we call the ulti, in reference to the MOBAs. We will, after a time, obviously it's fun to have more choice, and I'd say that we would like to let the players select before the round starts what they would like to bring into the game. So that's also another way where you can sort of spec your character, customize it a bit. In the original game we have things like teleport, we have things like invisibility, we have things like nullify and crash to desktop, and all sorts of crazy things. And by putting them in this sort of tiered system where we can sort of weigh them in, and this is something that you would want to use often. Okay, so we put that in a lower tier, tier 1, about as good as a haste. Teleport would probably go there as well. Or if you go up to the top level, the meteor shower that kills everything on screen, yeah, we can create new and exciting spells that does this big thing, have a massive impact on the battlefield, and put them on top of there as well.
Okay. And games can end rather quickly if your side doesn't know how to hold their spawn points.
Yes.
The enemy can take all 3 and then you'll be unable to spawn. There doesn't seem to be an uncappable base point so players can turn the tide or make a comeback. Is this intentional?
Yes, it is intentional by now. What we're seeing is that this is happening too often. And with the current amount, we don't have that many players in the pre-alpha. It's very early, right? So with more players, the matchmaking will go much faster. And then it'll be like that's the Counter-Strike reference I mentioned earlier. If nobody protects the bomb, the bomb point, and the terrorists go there and just explode the bomb, yeah, you lose the round. That's how it is. Then you play another one really quickly. But what we'll most likely do is that we'll add some sort of minimal time, where if you lose within a very short time, you'll respawn the team with a sort of ticket penalty, a respawn token penalty, or that you run multiple rounds in a row with a sort of rush bonus to the team that won. So we want to go for an experience that's about 7 minutes, something like that, plus minus a bit. Shorter than that, and it feels a bit short. Longer than that, and it's quite intense, right? The game. So if you go for longer than 10 minutes, you get tired. So a couple of 7-minute rounds, and then a small break, and then a couple more 7-minute rounds. That's what we're aiming for. But yes, we'll fix that. It's too short at the moment.
Perfect. As you tying in immediately into this, considering the high pace and the intensity of the game doesn't really allow for easy communication through text due to the high pacing of the game, as well as the method of spell casting.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for voice chat?
Probably not in game. It's probably something that will leave out to the players themselves. There are plenty of services like Ventrilo and things, and we'd prefer to actually do what we do best. We do the game great. That's what we want to focus on. Doing the voice over IP, yeah, maybe if we can find a good third-party solution that we can implement. But for now, we'll let the players sort out the communication themselves. If it's a requested feature, yes, we'll absolutely consider adding it, but it'll not be a focus from the development side.
Will there be an additional mode that does have an uncappable base, dropping back towards the question that we actually mentioned earlier?
Probably yes. What we're thinking is that as soon as we have the foundation of the game, the core mechanics and everything nailed down, so it feels really good, then we'll probably look at another game mode and another level. I'd guess, this is just my conjecture, but I'd guess that we want to do something with, say, 2 versus 2, because requiring 8 people to play, it's a bit much, right? So you might just want to have one friend over and play together against 2 other people. And then we'll probably have another form of game mode with the same core mechanics, but something a bit more different. And we'll see what that will be. We have many ideas. And we'll discuss it with the community as well, see what they have.
All right, perfect. We have about 15 minutes before this session ends. Once again, feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go along. We seem to have a decent dialogue going on at the moment, so we would definitely like to continue to answer your questions
Absolutely.
as they come by. And that is it for the moment. People seem to be playing their sessions right now. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we see the additional questions? Well,
I could mention a bit like in the longer run, we're seeing that. I mean, from the community side of things, we see already that people would like to start little groups, little clans, or organize themselves to play together. And that's also something that we would love to have. We don't have any concrete, no development being done on it, but we're thinking about it, and it's something that we would like to have. Well, it's the whole beauty of the early access, that you can actually get people, the players, ask them what they want, and we will try to implement it as quickly as possible. So clan-wise, we will most likely have, I'm sure that you all miss some sort of chat communication system in the front end. When you're sitting waiting for matches, it would be really nice to talk to people. Yeah, that's something that we want to add, preferably with like a group of your friends. At the moment, we're running Steam Friends as the Friends system. we would probably like to move over to, like, yes, I can be your friend in Wizard Wars. I don't want to be your friend on Steam because I don't know you that well. So that's also something that we would like to do. And that enables us to do little groups of people that like to play together.
Early access starts when again, and when is the full official release? Is there something planned for full release, or will there be a name switch from practical from beta to full release?
Yeah.
Will the game ever come out of beta? That's probably...
Yes, it will come out of beta. The early access date is the 15th of October. And please keep that to yourself until the 15th of October. And that will be when we go alpha, right? So we'll stay in this alpha state until we have things stable and solid enough that we can call it a beta. And then we'll stay in beta for as long as needed. But I think we're looking at, like, I think it's Q1 2014 or early 2014. That's the current plan for release. And that, of course, that will change depending on if we were a traditional game that had, like, this is the roadmap, these are the exact features that we will deliver, then we could put a deadline, a specific thing. But what we think we'll do, our roadmap that we have so far, we see that it's in flux. We know what we'll do the coming month, and we have great ideas and many options to choose from further down the line. But that really depends on how the feedback with the community goes. If the community wants more familiars and more magics, we'll do that. If they want tournament, esports, spectator modes, yeah, we'll focus on that. So it depends on what the players actually want.
All right, perfect. The session ends in about 10 minutes. Your questions are important to us, of course.
Yes, indeed.
You'll have 10 more minutes to ask your questions in the chat right here. And as mentioned before, we will be sending out the video itself for your reference later in the week as well. So, as again, next 10 minutes, you'll have the opportunity to drop your questions in the chat. And at that point in time, we're going to go and wrap up and leave you once again. And hope that you enjoy the game.
Yes. Well, I could always pull some interesting spell combinations for you. That's always fun. My favorite is the lightning shield fire. It's awesome because it places these lightning pillars on the ground and they're on fire. So you can basically place them on top of someone else, which sort of zaps them a bit, stuns them slightly, and puts them on fire, and does a good hefty chunk of damage, right? If they move out, when they move out, hopefully they move towards you, and then you can just water spray them back into this flaming lightning thing. Another favorite tactic from our render coder is if you put on a double death shield on yourself, that makes you completely immune to death damage. And then you can place death mines on the ground. And they sort of explode in a large area and deal death damage that you're immune to. So you can run up to an enemy, place the death mines, boom, and he flies up into the air, you as well. And as you land, you place some more. It's hilarious to see. You can almost not stun lock, but you can, if someone doesn't understand what's going on, it's like, what am I doing? I can't get out of this. But there is this simple solution. They can also just, put on the death shield. And we try to redo the, what do you call them? The spell presentation, the graphical presentation of them, the effects and how they communicate. So they are much clearer color based, so a red thing is death damage, a yellow thing is fire damage, a green thing is life and healing, and you also have the corresponding buttons in the HUD. So after a little while, you'll get to know exactly what you see on the screen and how to instinctively react to it and protect yourself and exploit it.
All right, perfect. Like I said before, everybody seems to be on its way, and my question was.
Well, if you're playing the game, I'm very happy with that.
Yes, definitely. Is there anything else that you would like to add while we wait?
Well, let's see what I think I mentioned most of the important stuff, the stuff that is definitely on the roadmap. It is that the first thing we want to do is improving the weapons. We've already done a pretty hefty improvement from the original Magicka. You have these weapon chains now. You can just right click, especially if you have the I think you should have access to the Gugnir spear, so it does a slash stab thing, and that's a lot more interesting than the original Magicka's simple attack. And then we'll add the weapon abilities where you can actually throw the spear and hit something. And that's fun. That's the first thing that we would like to add to the game. And then I mentioned the new magics. Yes, we will add some new interesting magics that'll add more choice to your sort of building the spec that you want with the special abilities. One key thing with these magics is that none of them should ever be an insta-kill. Nothing in the game should be an insta-kill. There will always be a way to defend yourself. If you're at full hit points and you meet someone else, you will have time to react and protect yourself against whatever the enemy throws at you. If you don't, we have failed and we'll fix it. Right?
All right, perfect. We're in our last 5 minutes.
Cool.
As we're waiting on this one. I had to sadly refresh the page for a second there because I needed to check something out. But yeah, if you actually if you posted a question in the last 30 seconds, please repost it back into the actual chat so we can cover it as we go along. How big is the team?
The dev team?
Yes.
It's not very big. It's about 15 people, right? And that's also including, it's back-end, front-end coding, gameplay code, artists, sound, and one designer, and me. So, and a fantastic animator. As I mean, a lot of it's so interesting to see. What we try to encourage with the team as well is that keeping in spirit with Magicka having these pop culture references and crazy things, right? We want to keep that in the team. So if someone has a good idea, we just do it. It's not like someone has a decision hat, this is what we'll do. We try to have it more open and allow people to use their creativity and put it into the game. So, and you'll see more examples of that as the game progresses. I mean, it's not like we're ninjaing in stuff constantly that puts the game at risk, but we will ninja in things that makes us laugh, and hopefully that'll also make other players laugh. That's also how the original Magicka was developed in a way, that you did fun stuff. And that's really the spirit that we want to keep going with the franchise and with this game, keeping it really fun.
All right, perfect. We're in our last minutes here. If anybody has any closer questions, then now is the time to ask.
Indeed.
We are definitely looking forward for your feedback on this session as well, and your contact will be in touch with you, with the details of where to actually get the recording for this particular session, as well as potentially asking your feedback. Because, like I said before, this is one of the first times that we're doing a session like this, and we are very interested in your feedback on how this all went. Of course, Yeah, basically this we're in the middle of wrapping up, so I think we have time for just one more, and after that we will leave you to your
Magicking.
yeah, magicking. I think would be a good
Magicka the
good-
Magicking.
We can make that. We can make that into a verb.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
definitely. Well, it seems that nobody is actually following up. Do you have anything to add before we wrap things up here today?
No, I think I've managed to talk quite a bit. So I hope I've given you information that you found relevant. And yeah, as Matt said, please feedback on how this worked. Magicka Wizard Wars is the spellcasting action PvP game. We go early access next Tuesday, the 15th of October. And we'll be updating the game every week for a long time. This is something we're quite committed to. You know, this is for the long haul. So we'll be building on this game for hopefully years to come.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much all for coming. That was pretty much it for here from Paradox Interactive from Sweden. Thank you so much for watching, and again, we will be in touch with additional information as well as this particular video. Till
Absolutely.
next time, and what was the early access date again?
The early access date was the 15th of October. And thank you, and goodbye.